So I was asked, how did I become a writer? Well, I've been writing since I was 7, and that would be short stories, poetry, songs even. But my love for writing came from my love from reading. And my mother made me and my siblings read all the time. Like you would never see me without a book in my hand. I used to stay on punishment all the time, so reading became just like my best friend in my room. Read lots of books, understood how stories were developed in those books, and just started writing my own. And I still actually have a nice collection of these stories and poetry that I wrote when I was a child. As well, I wrote in my diaries. I had diaries. My mother bought me my first diary at 7, and I have kept a diary every year of my life since I was 7. So um, my brother said that if I died, that's what he wanted for me, was my diaries. So that's what he'll get. He said, I'll know who you really were um, after you're gone, per se. But hopefully he knows who I am now. But anyway, so the short stories and the poetry segued into me actually trying to write my first book. That probably was about around, I'm gonna say in my 20s. I actually attempted it several times. I have still 4 that I haven't finished. They're a good and 100 and plus pages in. I just haven't finished them. And when a friend of mine came along and realized that I had these Tupac letters, then he asked me about possibly making a book with the Tupac letters, but I couldn't figure out how to do that. It was a long process. We will definitely get into that another time. Figured that one out and actually wrote that. And that wound up being my first actual book published. In regards to script writing, that happened about around age 28, 29. I was on sets all the time. They gave us scripts every day. So I was reading them, and one day I was like, I can write one of these. And so I did. And I wound up writing about 5 or 6 scripts while I was actually living in LA. And they're still pretty prevalent now. I do have some people looking at them, so we'll see on that, how that goes. And so now I'm working with a company that I write scripts with, and still writing books. I have clients who I'm writing books for. I'm writing books for myself. With the company, we have television and film scripts that have been written and that are still being written via us. And so there's a whole lot going on. Being a writer is something that I think you either try it or it's in you. It's a matter of being able to relay a story, understanding where the beginning, middle, end are, or what they are, and then finding your way from the beginning to the middle. What happens? How do you get there? Then from the middle to the end, how did you get there? And a lot of times, the crazy part about it is that I find myself at the end, and the end becomes the beginning when you go back to edit, because editing, we'll get into that, is a whole nother animal. It's a whole nother beast. It is the most, second to the most excruciating process to writing. Actually getting the project done, hands down, hard. First thing, hard. I can't even explain it any further than that. It's just hard. There's many mornings where the cursor completely mocks me and there's nothing that I can do about it. But I try every single day to write. I write every single day, whether it's a sentence, whether it's a thought, whether it's a whole nother project synopsis that I came up with off of sitting there staring at a cursor blink. And I set it to the side, but I never throw away anything. I never disregard a thought. Don't think that you're going to remember it, because you're not. As simple as it is, sometimes I have kicked myself in the ass not writing something down or not typing it in my phone, or not trying to abbreviate it somewhere so that I can remember it at a later time when I actually get to that situation. But as far as writing goes, the hardest part is writing. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. It is actually writing. And so what I would encourage you to do is to figure out what your beginning, middle, end is. And then if you can't come up with a flow, if you can't outline it in a way, if you have scenes or thoughts in your head about your book or your short story or your short or your film, or even poetry, just write that down. Just if you have a scene in your head and it's a scene that you completely have mapped out, write it. Doesn't matter where it's gonna go. Just write that scene. That'll get your juices going. If you have a thought about a book, if you have a situation that happens that you are sure that this is actually going to happen, or that I think I want this to happen inside of this book, write it. Start there. Don't worry about, well, what is the beginning? How do I start the beginning? That first line is a bitch. That first line, that first line, man. That first paragraph is crazy, but because it takes so much to start like that. Sometimes it will flow and you will go and you will just be super euphoric by the end of the day because you got so many pages written. And then there's going to be days when nothing happens. Nothing. Your mind is thinking about 97,000 other things. But just start. Just write. Just write. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about structure. Don't worry about any of that. You're going to get enough of that when it comes back to the editing part of it. Write it as best you can with what you know. You may get stuck researching things. That's fine, because that gets your juices flowing as well. You'll think of something that you haven't thought about because you saw something that you didn't know about. Let it go. Let it flow. And just lean into it. This is a process. This is not something that, you think writers just write and they just go off and make a movie. Or an author writes a book and it takes them 5 seconds to write a book because they're already an author, and it doesn't take any doing. When you hear people say, it took me 10 years to write a book, or it took me 9 months, or it took me 5 months, that's a long time. It's a short time, but to some, but it's a long time. And it is a process, and you want it to be good, and you don't want to rush through it, and you want it to be real and come from a real place, and you want people to enjoy your story. You want people to buy your story and watch your movies or your TV. So when you're looking at good television and you're looking at movies that you enjoy, process it. Figure out what it is you love about the story. Figure out what it is that they're doing that makes it connect with you, and then try that in your writing as well. So to circle back around to the question, this will happen a lot because I go from one thing to the next, is I've been writing since I was 7. It's in me. I love it. It's I can't imagine my life without writing, creating, thinking, or not having this process there. And I look forward to sharing everything that I do with you guys and helping you along your journey as well.